Well, we're going to get started right now. So first off, thanks guys for joining us to kind of learn a little bit more about Revizto 4.7. We're excited to join you, and I want to introduce Brett Settles, our VDC Technical Director here at Revizto, who's going to kick us off today.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, as Mark said, we're going to be going through in this webinar the new features of 4.7. We've also made some improvements to our reporting, which Mark has prepared to show you today. So I'm going to run through the new features of 4.7. As usual in my webinars, if you have any questions, please type into the Q&A section. At the end of the webinar, we'll open up time for those questions, and I will try to take care of all of them. If I cannot take care of all of them, I will definitely respond via email. We're looking to go about 40 minutes today with about 20 minutes of Q&A if needed. If not, we'll get you out of here a little bit early. So let's talk about, oops, sorry guys. Make sure we get this here. So let's talk about what's new in Revizto 4.7. So we have some improvements as well as some functions that have been introduced in the release that happened a couple Thursdays ago. The big things that we'll be talking about today is our ability to export PDF and what all functionality is entailed in that. We're going to be talking about filter presets in the issue tracker and why they are going to be so important moving forward. To everything from reporting to creating custom environments, as well as printing PDF markups. We're going to be talking about the ability to display multiple markups on sheets and how that ties into the issue tracker. And what this function is for is to give you the ability to put together markup sheets that also you gain all of the value that is introduced by our issue tracker and the reporting and the cloud-based communication. We're also, even though we're not going to look at it, there is also a new ability to bring in BCF from Celebri that is going to closely replicate a Clash workflow that you see inside of Navisworks. One of the things is that depending on where you're at geographically, this could be important or it could not be. We see Celebri used a lot overseas. So if you're here in the US, that may not make too big of a difference, but I know it's a big help to all of our guys over in the Europe regions. So improvements. One of the things that we've improved upon is the ability to show double-sided materials in the viewer. Limited access to be able to export a project to EXE or do a save as. This is for obvious security reasons. We don't want people to be able to replicate our data, especially when all of that data is project-wide. With the release of 4.7, we've also introduced the ability to support Tekla. We have a direct plugin with Tekla now. And we have already released the ability to work with Navisworks and AutoCAD 2009. And even though it's not on the list, we also have the ability to work with Revit 2019 already as well. And we also have some optimizations to the way the viewer handles the 3D data. So we're looking at some improvements there as well. So let's go ahead and jump into these features here. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is the filter presets. The reason why is because filter presets are going to tie into everything, not only day-to-day operations, but your ability to export to PDF, your ability to report, and how those filters work. This is not a huge departure from the system that we've had before. So inside of the issue tracker, one of the things that you're going to see is where our filtering tool used to be, you're now going to have two options. Those options are going to give you access to your presets, or you can go back to the old filtering tool. The difference in 4.7 is that whereas prior you had to filter, every time you wanted to generate a filter, you had to filter for that. Now what we can do is we can create very simple filters. So if I wanted to look for all of my 3D issues, I can simply filter for that one single time, and I can save that as a preset. So in here, I can choose to update an existing preset. As you can see, I have many presets made, and these cover many different things, such as issues talked about in a meeting, or issues that have to do with a particular company, or issues that have to do with specifically design review. Or I can create a new preset. So since this is a very simple filtering, let me go ahead and just name it accordingly. We're going to call this the 3D issue preset. Now, what's going to happen here is when I create this preset, you're going to see the filtering go back to the presets option, and that new preset is going to be listed down at the bottom here. Whenever I click this preset, you're going to see that those issues show here. If I click this preset, you're going to see a complete change of the way filtering is organized in the issue tracker. So if I click on an issue there, you'll see all the issue properties there. Here we can see the clash issues or issues that have to do with this specific company. The reason that the filters are so important is that they create custom environments for the parties involved in the project. What has happened before is that if you were a subcontractor in a Revizto project, you would have to filter for your very specific issues over and over and over again to get to them quickly. Now you can actually, either your project manager can set up an environment for you, or you can set up your own custom environment. So if I work for this architecture company, I can click here and quickly see all of the issues that have to do with my problems. If I go to the plumbing company, I can now see that all of my issues here have to do with those specific issues. So it's a very quick way to create custom environments for your users and allow them to quickly access what they need on a day-to-day basis. Now here you can see that we can easily get back to all the issues if we want and see everything from a very high-level overview. Now, another thing you'll notice about these presets is that there are little share icons next to them. But when they're created, there is not one. What this icon means is that this filter has been shared to every single person in the project. So if I want to share my new filter, I can simply click the share icon, make sure that that is highlighted, and click apply. And what that does is that makes that preset available to everyone on the team. So not only is this good for setting up custom environments, but it's also good for organizing issues. Here we can see all of the issues that we talked about in a coordination meeting. So very quick way to isolate out very specific sorts of issues, or be able to quickly jump back and forth between what's important to you on a single day, or if you want to take a high-level overview of the project. Let's jump into our 2D features now. And one thing I'd like to show is how filtering and presets make a big difference in almost every aspect of what we're doing here. Notice this item right here. So let's say that I'm at the beginning of a sheet set here, and I choose to only see this filter. What this filter does is this filter only shows me issues that have markups that relate to them. So during a 2D review, I can quickly jump from sheet to sheet with this filter incorporated, and my issue tracker will automatically show me the issues that were created in a 2D markup review. If I switch to markups here, another new feature of Revizto 4.7 is the ability to see all of the markups. So the great thing here is that now we can focus in on a 2D design review inside of the centralized environment. So as I go through here, I can see all of my issues that are on this sheet specifically, and I can see all of the markups. I can still also, if I choose to, see all of the pins that we were used to seeing inside of Revizto. When I choose on my markups here, if I'm in the 2D environment, or in the issue tracker environment, sorry, and I click on an issue, notice that it directly takes me to that markup on the sheet. So not only does this allow you to compile 2D markups as you work through your design review, take advantage of all the communication opportunities that Revizto gives you, but it also ties directly into the issue tracker. If I want to see all of my other issues very strongly, as if I'm trying to conserve space on the sheet, I can turn my transparency down. If I want to barely see or maybe not want to see any of the other markups, I can turn the transparency up. I usually find that setting it right about here is really nice because it gives me a spatial awareness on my sheet as to where the markup needs to go, but it's very clear what my active markup is. One of the great things about Revizto with markups is that these markups are categorized, or not categorized, but cataloged in the communication. So just like with any 3D or VR issues that we find, and 2D issues of the past, where these markups would only show inside of the communication dialog, now we can actually access them on the sheet itself. And what you can see is that we have an evolution of these markups themselves. So let's find one that has been marked up a few times. As you can see, here was the original markup for this issue. But at this point, it changed. And so you can see that the most current markup is always represented on the issue, but we can actually see that history there. So very, very powerful tool. If I want to edit that markup, I can choose to edit that markup, and I can easily come in here and select this item and make any changes that I want to. So say maybe we want to cloud this whole area now, and maybe I want to add some sort of leader here. So I add my markup, everything is good, and I say done. You'll notice that the markup changes on the sheet, everything's updated in the communication, and I can still get back to my old markups here. So great way to organize 2D markups and work through a 2D design review and have the ability to assign responsibility and also report on these issues. If you notice, my markups now have the ability to have tags. And if you've watched any of our other webinars, you'll know how important tags are to reporting, which is something that Mark will be getting into. Now, the other thing that we've included on this issue or on this release is the ability to print a PDF. Before, we did not have this ability. And not only have we added the ability to print a PDF, but we've added a lot of ability to control how you print a PDF. So if I'm on a single sheet here, you'll notice that now we have the ability to export to PDF. I can choose none to export a clean sheet. I can choose currently filtered issues to show the issues on the sheet, or any of the issues depending on how I have them filtered. Or if I want to export a markup set to a very specific company or for a very specific reason, such as markups that come from a coordination meeting or markups that have to do with this particular company, I can use my preset to govern which markups will be printed to the sheets. So let's say that I'm going to print my currently filtered issues. I say OK. I can simply print that to PDF. And whenever that PDF is created, I can open up that PDF and I can see that I have a very high quality vector PDF with all of my markups baked into the sheet. So this is a really good way during anything like any sort of feasibility studies or constructability reviews where a set of markups is an actual deliverable. We can do that. Obviously, in an internal collaboration or project collaboration environment, we would like you to stay inside of Revizto to do that collaboration, but we do understand that that's not always going to be the best way to get things done or the best way to transmit information. We also know that 2D construction documents are the legal basis of the construction world. So we want to make sure that we provide you with as much ability as possible to utilize Revizto to track your issues, to report on your problems, and to gain insight into your project, but still be able to create deliverables from the work that's done inside of it. So here, if we're going to look a little bit more on those 2D export issues, not only do we have the ability to export a single sheet, but I can actually export an entire project document set. So one of the things that's a big benefit here is that Revizto by nature centralizes all of your documents. So no longer do we have to, create sheet sets from 5 different models or run an additional third-party tool to control simply sheet exports. We can actually use Revizto to export those sheets the way that we want, with or without markups. So let me jump back to my PowerPoint here. All right. Well, to be completely honest, we kind of jumped through a lot of the functional features inside of Revizto pretty quickly. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Mark so that he can take over reporting. I'm going to jump over to the Q&A session of the webinar and answer some questions going on over there. So, Mark, you ready to take over?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share.
You guys should now be able to see my screen. So thanks, Brett. And yeah, I think that was a good overview of 4.7. So what I wanted to kind of build off of Brett's conversation is now that we have maybe better utilized some of our custom filters and our presets and tagging, now how do we get this relevant information out and actually make business decisions off of that? So tracking all these issues and information in real time is all great, but being able to pull a report and make decisions and actually increase the ROI of your project is the end goal. So that's where we came in our revamp to reporting. So to access reporting, you can always get there from the actual Revizto website, and when you log in, you can go to your projects and go from there. Otherwise, you can just select this reporting key from the project you're currently on. It's going to launch our Revizto workspace, and it's going to be broken down into project info, private sharing, dashboard, and reports. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our dashboard. And what's cool about our dashboard is it's going to follow the same methodology of Revizto. So if you think about, Revizto and based on the XYZ coordinate transferring information, we're not physically sending files. However, when we go into a report section and we send out a report, that report is only as good as what it was sent out at that very time. So if we are sending out a report based on clash detection that we did in Navisworks, as soon as you get an updated NWC and you rerun your test, that report becomes irrelevant, even if it was only an hour after that report was generated. So the dashboard solves this problem. And although we can't take full credit for this, we have to thank a lot of our premium users and customers that have provided us a lot of different feedback and basically kind of challenged us to say, hey, we need a report and a dashboard to be able to pull any sort of information out at any point in time, depending on the phase that we're in the project, and be able to consolidate from 5 to 10,000 issues down to just a handful of the relevant issues for the business case I'm trying to make. So dashboard does this. So if we jump in here right now, I'm going to jump into our individual and project dashboard. Each of these dashboards are going to change based on the relevant information to the project, the individual, or the company. So maybe I have an individual and a project dashboard that is information that I want to see and that is also relevant to the entire progression of the project. So we'll start off here. You can actually see that I have 8 open issues. And actually, what I'm going to do here to show you this in real time is I'm going to jump back here. I'm going to come into a few of these issues I have open, and I'm going to move these. So here's one that's in progress. So I'm going to move this to solved as well. So I'm going to simulate me fixing these issues in real time. You can see that, we have 8 issues here, as well as 6 in progress and 10 solved. So if I refresh the page, this is going to pull the most recent and up-to-date information. So you can see now I have 1 less issue in my open issue, 1 less in progress, and more in the solved category ready to be signed off on. So that's the beauty of the dashboard, is that we can pull real-time relevant information. So for those folks who like to update their model right before coordination meeting, we can pull this report, click the refresh button, and you're getting literally real-time information in any kind of format that you'd like. So again, here's our project dashboard. It's going to show us relevant information, maybe on a higher level of that project. But some of the stuff might be irrelevant to certain contractors or trades. So we're going to jump into, maybe we created a concrete dashboard. So this might be the dashboard that's only relevant to our concrete team. So we can jump in here and we can see the breakdown specifically on what our concrete team needs to know during the phase of project that we're currently in. Maybe this graph isn't really doing it because we've moved, or the progress of this project has really progressed. So I'm going to just add another dashboard in here. And this is really where Revisto's dashboard becomes really powerful. So we can name this, and we'll call this our May webinar test. And we can decide what kind of graph we want. And as we do this, everything's going to update in real time as we're building this. So I'm going to say, you know what, let's do it by assignee, or maybe the status of the issue is what we really want to be understanding. And we want to add in a couple of these filters. Is not, well, Brett has a lot of our issues, so we don't really care about his issues right now. Brett, and we'll also add in Luke to this, as well as Pat Lantry. So once I add those folks into there, I can change this graph to really bring in the information that I'm specifically looking for. So depending on what I'm looking for, this graph is significantly going to change. And then I'm going to add in one more condition, and that's usually going to be tags. So tagging is becoming really critical, because at the end of DD, we can use our multi-select button to tag all those issues as DD issues. So now 6 months, 8 months, 2 years later, we would need to go back and find a specific issue that was created during DD that was tied to a specific person and company. We can go back and pull those reports. I'll add in structural as well as level 1, and we can see our new graph here. So I'll click OK. We're going to share this, and now I have the option to send this out to my team, create this as an automatic delivery to anybody else that might need to see that on a weekly basis. So a lot of times we'll send that out maybe Monday morning at 8 a.m. just to give everybody a snapshot in time of what the current issues look like without having to log on to the Revizto dashboard. So that's kind of the power of creating these different dashboards and then sharing the relevant information with the folks that need to have it most. So it's really nice to consolidate the information that's relevant to us and block out and not have to see the information that may be irrelevant to us on our day-to-day activity. So that's a really high-level overview of our dashboard. So we're going to jump into reports. Reporting is going to be similar in the sense that we can send these out. So again, these are going to be physical documents that are going to be pushed out, whether they're to your project team or a specific individual that are relevant to those guys as well. So we are able to schedule these at the specific time. So Alex needs to get this, and we can include our company logo, and then we can send this now. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what we've done within the dashboard. We do have a specific webinar that I think we spent about 35 minutes going over the dashboard in more detail. So certainly you guys can refer to that as well. So at this point, let's open it up for questions. We want to be cognizant of everybody's time. I know we were trying to keep this between 30 and 40 minutes, and it looks like we kind of hit our mark there. Brett, do you want to open up or address any specific questions to start?
Yeah, right now we only really have one that hasn't been answered. So I'll answer that one, and then I can go back through the answered questions I don't know if everyone can see the answered questions on their end. They probably can. But
So
Kevin Coppin, oh, go ahead.
while you were presenting, Brett, I was answering those publicly. So
Okay.
hopefully everybody can see those. This is one of our first Zoom webinars, so this is going to be an experience by itself. So hopefully you guys can see the answers for that. But if you guys can't, or if there's any specific questions, please feel free to put those in the chat box.
Yeah, so the only question we have right now is with the dashboard, can we discuss the difference between filters for meets all or meets any? So what that means is that in a meets all situation, the issues that are presented by the filter have to have each individual tag. So if you have 3 tags that you say meets all for, any issue that shows up in that filter will have to meet all 3 of those tags. Now, if you choose meets any, what's going to happen is that those issues only have to have 1 of those 3 tags. So you're going to get a much broader selection of issues by choosing a meets any versus a meets all. A meets all is going to be a very specific filtering method.
Yeah, very, very well said, Brett, and an excellent question as well. So as you guys can see, here's our meet all of the following conditions. And under meets all, we can also add additional conditions. And this is where you can really tailor down that specific report from having 10,000 issues to having 3 issues you want to discuss in a meeting.
Yep. So Frankie Davis asked us, are there any visibility controls with the 2D sheets as is with the issue tracker? I don't know. This is with the issue tracker. Frankie, let me come back to that, but if you could add a little bit of context to that, that would help me out. I don't know if I'm following. Mark, are you following what Frankie's asking us? Maybe I'm just overlooking.
I did not follow that.
Okay.
Are you referring to the issue transparency on those 2D sheets? Or are you talking about the transparency of the actual plan versus the markups?
We'll let him basically type in a new question. We'll kind of move on, but we will definitely come back to that. We're definitely going to come right back to that. What does it mean, support of Autodesk 2019? So if you're not familiar with Revizto, we have plugins that work in almost every one of the Autodesk AEC authoring tools. And so we already support almost every single one of them in 2019. The next question is Plant 3D. We do support Plant 3D, and it actually works really well. We also support Civil 3D. And basically, any third-party tool that builds on top of AutoCAD and adds metadata to any sort of object in AutoCAD, Revizto does a really good job of transferring those properties and reading those into the data of each object. Okay, Frankie cleared this up very, very clear. So what he was wanting to know, Mark, is basically, you know how we can turn an issue to private by toggling public?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he wants to know if we can do that with 2D sheets. And the answer is no. We cannot choose visibility that way, but you are not the first person to bring that up. So usually when ideas like that start to surface, where we have multiple clients asking for it, we will essentially put that into the list, and we will have a larger discussion about development priorities. And so that's definitely something that will probably make its way into that list. But as of right now, we don't have any way to do that.
So, and to add on to that, you're 100% right, Brett. Right now, is if you import information into the 2D, everybody's going to have access to that if they're if they're granted to be able to access the content within the model. However, within the 2D, we can not allow that individual to be able to see any of those issues in a 2D format. So if there was issues that you guys, if there were red lines on that 2D plan that for some instance, and this might not be the case for Frankie, but if there was instances on a 2D situation like this Greg test here, and we didn't want to be able to provide any of the red lines or access to specific people on the project, we could certainly do that. But as Brett said, that's something that I'm sure if we continue to get that request, it's certainly going to be something that will be added.
Yeah, and in fact, what's funny about that request is that I haven't received it long-term with Revizto, but as people start adopting more and more of our 2D tools, that question has actually came up 3 times in the last 2 weeks. So that's definitely something that's on my radar. That is for sure.
So we have a question about the dashboard. Can the dashboard be online instead of having the Revizto installed on your device? Absolutely. So if I click on this, you'll actually see that the dashboard is a web browser, and that's what allows us to have that. So if I'm logged in, as you can see, what I'll do is just go to the Revizto site and I'll log in and write my name. So this is the same place. You can actually go in and manage users and be able to see, this data for specific projects on how people are accessing it. And under that same kind of graph, we can go under My Projects, and you can pick the specific project that you're looking at. In our case, I think it was the terminal coordination project. We can identify that project, and when we click on that, then we can go to dashboard. So again, My Projects, and then you should be able to go to dashboard directly from the web browser.
Yep, that's a really good point, Mark, is that the dashboard is online. So as long as you have login credentials, you can get to the metrics of the project that way. That's a good question. All right, so right now looks like we are out of questions.
So we'll see.
Well, let me check the chat real quick.
So I think we got to everybody's question. If your question did not get answered, if you could just copy and paste it in the top of the feed. I think we either answered those via text, or a lot of those we hopefully answered via text while we were presenting, Brett or myself. For some of the other ones that were open, I think we addressed those. So.
Let's use these final few minutes. Let's talk about what's coming in 4.8 for everyone that's still on the call. So one of the things that we definitely want you guys to understand is that 4.7 is a very, very good update in its own right. But in a lot of ways, it's a precursor to what we're planning on implementing in 4.8. And in 4.8, what we're shooting for is, for anyone that's not familiar with the fact that we have a mobile application, we do. And right now, our mobile application is pretty popular in the field among our clients. But one of the things that we have not put into place yet was the ability to do a 2D stamp workflow. That is going to be our main focus of 4.8. Along with, there are quite a few other improvements, such as things like IFC export and possible COBie compliant spreadsheet export, and a few other small items that are going to add to the ability to exchange information. However, as I was saying, 4.8 is really focused around that stamp workflow in the field. And not only are we going to replicate a stamp workflow, but we are going to do it in a way that allows you to leverage everything that makes Revizto unique. So, Mark, I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Brett. All of everything we've done with being able to print to PDF, and this issue dashboard is going to be the precursor to having a punch workflow that's efficient in the field. We've heard a lot of success from our customers in terms of just leveraging the iPad application in the field, or the Surface application, on their tablets and being able to access that real-time, Navisworks coordination information, as well as having the relationship to the 2D plans. But we know that not all of the people in the field are necessarily able to jump into the 3D application and navigate coordination issues in a 3D environment. So we want to make, our goal is to make this as simple as possible to help engage more of the project managers and superintendents, which is going to allow, real-time streamlined communication between the field and the office, and then tying that back into the dashboard to making real business decisions and keeping that project on time. So I think we got one last question, Brett, and then I think we will wrap it up here. So the question is how do we set up a preset by subcontractor architecture firm, for example? Great question, Chuck. So actually, so when you go to share here, you're going to see a manage access. Because Brett hasn't given me the proper rights on this project, I'm not able to change the access, and that's going to be what you want for most of the trades. You don't want them to be able to invite other people or change the access level of individuals on the project. So let me just quickly jump to one of mine and showcase this in an environment here. So
go ahead and show that, Mark. And then I think actually what he wants to know is how to set up a preset for a subcontractor.
Okay. Yep. So if we're talking about presets in the issue tracker versus presets on the licensing, I think both are going to be beneficial in your project. So first off, from the share category, we can come in here and we can go into the share button and we can invite that individual. And if they're a consultant or if they're an architect or if they're a project manager, we can select their title. These titles are all custom to your project and they're managed by this managed access level. So we usually set this up, and this is something Brett works with a lot of our customers on, is figuring out best practices for, what should a consultant have access to do and how can we make this streamline the workflow. So each individual project is going to be different. Obviously, we have some owners that are very technical and some that sometimes have a hard time navigating on a computer. So with that wide range of skill set, we want to be able to keep them involved based on the rights here. So we can, select that, and then when we add the individual as consultant, they're going to have specific rights within that project. So that's on the access level when they get in, and then going back to the presets, Brett, maybe I'll let you discuss the presets is.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to, we can throw the screen share back over to me, and I'll show this real quick. And awesome. All right, so. Mark, can you see my screen okay?
I can.
Perfect. All right, Chuck, so what you're probably talking about here is if I go to the issue tracker, I can see these subcontractors here, different engineers and subcontractors and fabricators and how their preset is set up. The way that is done is via tags. So if you think about it, reporting and filtering is always done by one of the issue properties that's there for every single issue, which is everything from ID to public. Tags, the way you think of tags is custom properties. The thing that Revizto can't know about your project is who the subcontractors are, what date you had a coordination meeting, or any of these custom properties that are very applicable to your project. So the way that you actually tag a subcontractor and set up a preset for them is very simple. So first of all, let's create an issue here with a new subcontractor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create an issue right here. We're going to keep it really simple. I'm going to say subtest, and we're going to create that issue. Whenever an issue is created, over here, I can go through and set all the properties like I want, like we have in most everything else. But then when I get done setting the properties under tags, I can come in here and I can say, okay, I know that Joe the plumber is going to be working on this. So I'm going to tag him and his company. I know that this takes place on level 1 in the north area. I know that it has to do with plumbing, and I know that it's based on a request for information. Once I add all those properties to the issue, what's going to happen is anytime I filter, not only does it have the properties here, but it has the properties down here. Actually, you know what? We're going to add another subcontractor on here. So I'm going to add a tag right now, and I'm going to say webinar pipe services. And I'm going to add them as a new contractor to the project. So once I've added them, you'll notice that that new company's tag is located right here. If I go to set up a filter, I can filter for these issues by tag, and I can come down here and I'm going to clear this company, and I'm going to look for this webinar pipe services company that was just included. I'm going to save that as a preset. I'm going to say webinar pipe services. Once that's saved, I can now share that out to the project team like I do here. And now any issue that is created will automatically be put into that filter. So if I come through here and I create a new issue real quick, and I do the same thing, you know, I throw this in here. I throw an issue on here. When I go and I add this tag, I can add that tag there, and you'll notice that that is immediately put into their subcontractor filter. And you can see that Mark is actually communicating with me now. So back to what we talked about in the webinar is that this is extremely powerful for your subcontractors, because they can open up the project and say, oh man, there are a lot of new issues in this area, there are a lot of new issues in this area. I can see all of them, but you know what? I need to focus on my issues. Here are my issues. So a little long, but hopefully that answered everything.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Brett, real quickly here. So I'm just filtering by webinar pipe services. So any issue that Brett drops into that preset, I'm seeing in my task list. So in the BIM execution plan, we can discuss specifically, you know, how some of these priorities are going to be leveraged, as well as the presets that are going to be leveraged. So I'm typically going to filter by the priority level. So as those are tied into a monetary or time value, as well as the specific issues that are tagged to me. So the important issues are showing up on the top there, and I can address those as a custom and always updating list on a daily basis.
Yeah, so going back to piping, or not piping, but filtering, this is why tags are important in many different directions, because as you can see, we just created this preset, and I already have a preset with issues going into it, and I already have a graph monitoring their progress. And this has all happened in a matter of 3 minutes.
Yeah, the combination of presets and the dashboard has been a game changer for a lot of our customers. And I think it's probably the most entertaining conversation we have is for customers that have been leveraging Revizto on some large projects that aren't fully aware of how this works. And it's really exciting to see them, you know, kind of their eyes open up with the possibilities of all the work they've previously been doing. Now they can pull and report and see that data in real time. So certainly, if you guys have more questions on this, please engage your territory manager, Brett, or myself, and we'd love to have a further discussion on this. So I think that does it, Brett. In terms of questions, I think we cleared those out, and we do want to be cognizant of all your guys' time. We really appreciate you guys dedicating a portion of your busy days to spend time with us. So thank you again, and we will post this recording and send this out tomorrow. It also will be on our YouTube channel if you want to share this with anybody at your organization. So thanks again, guys, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.